Kerala towards $1 trillion economy. This is the topic here. I would like to invite Mr. C. Balagopal, the chairman for KSIDC Limited, for the keynote address. And the topic for the day is Kerala towards $1 trillion economy. We have Mr. C. Balagopal, the chairman for KSIDC Limited, with his keynote address. So please.
Good afternoon. So since we are all running to a very tight time schedule, without much ado, I will start my short talk, which will set the stage for what is going to be a very high-power panel discussion to follow. So I hope I will be able to finish what I have to say in about 10 minutes. So the subject which has been given to us to address for this session is Kerala's journey to $1 trillion economy. Now, I think most people, the first thought which goes through your mind when you hear such a theme is, why are we even talking about all these things? You know, because it would appear like it is something which cannot be achieved, which is way out of reach, etc. But I think that way of thinking happens because most of the time we don't really look at numbers. And so let's just take a look at, the first part of what I want to say is, take a look at the $1 trillion. Now here, first I have made a statement that Kerala is on track to reach $1 trillion economy by 2047. And why do I say that? If you look at the gross state domestic product data, at least which I have seen from the year 2000 onwards, and that gives us 24 years data, which is available in Wikipedia and which is reasonably well authenticated data. It shows that the gross state domestic product of Kerala was 77,000 crores in the year 2000, and in the year ended 2024, it grew to 11 lakh crores. And if you look at that 24-year time period, that means that over that entire 24-year time period, the gross state domestic product doubled 4 times. It first doubled by 2006 to 1.5 lakh crores. Then it doubled again in the next 6 years to 3 lakh crores. Then it doubled again to the next 6 years to 6 lakh crores. And then it doubled again by 2024 to 11 lakh crores. So if you apply the track record of actually recorded growth of the nominal gross state domestic product of Kerala, and you project it using the same rate of growth, then before 2047, Kerala's gross state domestic product will cross 88 lakh crores, which at current prices is $1 trillion. So that's the simple arithmetic part of it. So why I'm saying that is, these numbers I don't think are just plucked out of thin air. There is a basis for them. There is a historical basis based on the actual rate of growth observed from the year 2000 to 2024. And projecting from here, it does not seem unreasonable that the Kerala economy will be able to maintain the same rate of growth. Now, the second part of what I want to say is, the Kerala economy is where it is today partly as a result of many actions, including public policy actions, plus a combination of historical factors which happened earlier. Now, these include land reforms which took place in Kerala, and probably the only state in India where land reforms as we understood it understanding took place. And incidentally, for everybody's information and curiosity, land reform also took place in Taiwan, it took place in Japan, it took place in South Korea, and it took place in China. Okay? So, in all the Asian tigers and Kerala, land reform took place. So, it's not something which was something eccentric which happened in Kerala. That's what I'm trying to say. The next is another public policy priority was the government of that time, governments of that time chose to stress universal education and public health. And these two subjects were given a greater share of the public budget than happened in any other state in India. So it's not just an accident that Kerala's HDI has reached certain levels today. It didn't happen by historical accident as many people genuinely believe. That's simply not true. There was historical factors definitely contributed to it, but public policy played a very major role. The third thing is, in the 70s, there was this is still to be more research to be done, but my hypothesis is that during the chief ministership of Achyuta Menon, who was a remarkable statesman with a very long-term view, he put together a small think tank and they analyzed Kerala and did not take much time to discover that Kerala has no natural resources. It's an overcrowded, narrow state with a mountainous ridge along the eastern side, which was covered with forest and hence not possible to use for industry. It had a coastal region which was heavily populated and which was very waterborne with many water bodies, which was also not suitable for industry. And it had a narrow region in between which could be used for industry, but there were competing uses like it also had to be used for housing, it also had to be used for so many other things, and for agriculture. So at that time, there was a deliberate policy to try to bring in an electronics industry into Kerala. And the decision was taken to set up the Kerala State Electronics Development Corporation. And a remarkable, far-sighted electronics genius called KPP Nambiar was invited down to suggest a way for Kerala to. So, in other words, the task which was given to the Kerala State Electronics Development Corporation at that time was nothing less than to introduce industrial culture into a state which did not have an industry of that kind. And then you had tourism and sustainable development, which was the other initiative, which all didn't happen at the same time, at different times. What I'm trying to say is public policy initiatives. One more thing which I forgot to mention was flowing from the from the Keltron experience and influenced by the learnings and thinking which started to take place among the political elite at that time was the idea that we should, through public policy, try to bring in the software sector into Kerala. And so the first technopark in India, but many people may forget, maybe thinking that the first technopark must have been Bangalore or Cyberabad. It wasn't. It was the technopark in Trivandrum, was the precursor of all the other technoparks. So that was set up. So what I'm trying to get at here is there was a period of public policy being put into the task of economic development of the state due to the governments, different governments which came along, understanding that there are constraints in this state. It was an heavily populated state with very limited land resources and practically no natural resources. So, what happened then was that economic expansion took place, a certain amount of infrastructure development took place, investment. For instance, we keep thinking There was no investment happening here in Kerala because no FDI was coming into Kerala. Nobody was investing anything in Kerala except maybe one or two odd exceptions. But what I think everybody was missing was the fact that a local entrepreneur class started growing in Kerala unnoticed by everybody. And over the last 40 years, this entrepreneurial class, which very interestingly, almost all of them were first generation entrepreneurs. They started small enterprises, often with 5 lakhs capital and 10 lakhs capital. And some of the enterprises they started today have turnover of 2,000 crores and 3,000 crores. They are the world's leaders in their, not only the country's leaders, but global leaders in their fields. They've got plants, many plants, some plants outside Kerala, some plants even outside the country, and they're all doing well. This new emerging class of manufacturers grew during this post-Keltron period. And I'm not trying to say it was because of Keltron. I'm trying to say that all this happened around that time. Then, of course, the urban pressures. As I mentioned, this was a continuing factor here. Not only the urban, you say urban pressure was also, we had in Kerala a distributed kind of urbanization. In fact, somebody has very correctly said that Kerala is probably the largest contiguous urban area in the world, which stretches 500 kilometers north-south and 50 kilometers east-west. And where 35 million people are evenly distributed along this, we don't have one urban area which is a huge concentration where like happens in almost every other state in the country. The urban pattern here is very different. In Kerala, we have 7 cities with a population of 1.5 million. 7 cities. And so in other words, it means it's very, very evenly distributed north-south. So now, just as in the past some public policy initiatives took place which had their effect, like the public policy initiative was the stress on public health and public education and public social welfare, stressing the human resource which was seen as the only resource of this state, and counting on that human resource developing the growth impetus, providing the growth impetus and the triggers for the economic development of the state. Partly that happened by a large cohort leaving the state to get employment outside and send back money. But partly what has also happened is very interesting. Why did they leave the state at that time? That's actually a long question. I have very limited time. But the kind of industrial employment we had in Kerala earlier was a very low value adding traditional manufacturing of agricultural raw materials like the cashew processing sector, coir processing sector, basic spices cleaning, basic seafood just cleaning and putting into ice and sending it out, that kind. Now, those kind of jobs did not hold out attraction for an aspirational class which was growing in Kerala, which had started going to, all of them went to school, many of them went to college, and when they came out, this was not the kind of job they wanted. So, since there were no other jobs available here other than government jobs, they left the place. Now, what happened later was that when this class of enterprises started growing, 2 things came together. I mentioned that people like C.V. Jacob and OEN Connectors, Pamela is sitting there, when they all started their high-tech companies, they needed a skilled manpower. Now, the skilled manpower was locally available. But previously, they were all going abroad, outside the state, because there was no employment opportunity. Now, this started. So, 2 good things started coming together. My company, for instance, which I started, with just 50 people and a few lakhs investment 40 years ago, today that factory employs 4,000 people. And not one of them is from outside the state. Every one of them is from within the state. I have nothing against the people from other parts of India. Everybody is welcome to work here. But the point is, they found the skilled people who The skilled, highly trained people who are needed for medical device manufacturing were easy to find here. And this was the same case with Synthite, it was the same case with OEN, it was the same case with PK Steel, Castings, or any one of those companies all over across the state. So then, today, what are those actions which need to be taken and which are being taken, which is the good news? That is, one is to build on whatever Kerala has achieved, and I will end with this, I think I've come to the end of my time, is we need to build on the transportation system here, because we have to understand, if the GSDP of the state is going to double every 6 to 8 years, it means a significant increase in the production of goods and services is going to be happening every 6 to 8 years. All that has to be transported somewhere. It has to be transported from factories to ports and from warehouses around. And so, in other words, the load goes up. So, a significant amount of investment. It is all happening. Today, you can see for yourself in terms of the difficulty you have to get to Trivandrum and to get to Kozhikode. Significant amount of investment is going on, and work is proceeding very fast, I must say. Now, the good news is that a certain serious planning is happening for an eastern expressway, eastern highway along the hill region, but not right up on top of the hills, but below. So, which will take a lot of the burden off the other one. So, that is happening. Railway, there's a lot of thinking which is going on, and I hope they quickly take the decisions. Growth corridors, industrial parks are under planning, and some of them have already, the investments have happened. The stress today in the industrial policy of Kerala is on knowledge-based industry. So today, for example, and I, several times in the planning for this event, a lot of information was put out showing that while maybe some very large BPO centers, etc., are coming up in different parts of the country, very impressively large GCCs are coming up also in Kerala. And companies like IBM, etc., are planning to set up, and have already started setting up facilities which are employing more than 1,000 people engaged on just AI research in Cochin. And this is not a low-end job. The average wages, the average salary there will be pretty substantial. So, similarly, a focus on government, again, trying to promote research in higher educational institutions. Unfortunately, in the Indian education system, research has not been getting enough attention so far. So that's the other thing. So with this, what I say is that what we are aiming to build, and which we can get to, is to build India's first sustainable $1 trillion economy. So the kind of industries coming up here now in Kerala, and which are succeeding and which are doing well, are clean, green industries which don't pollute, which employ large numbers of people but employ very highly skilled people. And so that's the kind of profile which is happening. And the low value adding industries are naturally will either migrate away to places where wages are lower and where things can be more competitive, and that is also happening. Kerala has many examples of public-private partnership. In fact, the only PPP airport in the country is in Cochin. And there are other examples of this also, of government and the business coming together. In fact, in tourism, a lot of the innovation was neither that of government nor of the private sector alone. It was a very good, harmonious, symbiotic kind of relationship between government and the private sector. Entrepreneurial vision. Now, the startup, as was mentioned by the Chief Minister in his speech, and many others mentioned, Kerala startup ecosystem is it has been acknowledged outside the state as one of the best in the country. And in terms of outcomes, not just the number of people in incubators, but the amount of funding which these startups have been able to attract. And finally, one thing you can count on is anything which happens in Kerala, you can count on 100% citizen engagement. Everybody will want to know what is going on and will take an active interest. They will not be passive participants in this. So I believe that this is a story that we are all going to write together as people of Kerala. to build India's first sustainable trillion-dollar economy. Thank you.
And that was Mr. C. Balagopal, the chairman of Kerala State Industrial Development Corporation, KSIDC. Now, may I please request Mr. Nawaz Miran, the chairman for Group Miran, to join us on the stage to give away the token of appreciation. I would also like to mention that Mr. C. Balagopal is the founder for Terumo Penpol, the leading manufacturer for blood bags, and he has also served as the chairman of Federal Bank. Balagopal holds a degree in economics from Loyola College, Madras University, and he has been involved in various initiatives to promote industrial development in Kerala. Thank you, Mr. C. Balagopal, sir. Thank you, Mr. Nawaz Miran, the chairman for Group Miran. Now, let's move on to the panel discussion. As we know, the topic is Kerala's journey to a trillion-dollar economy. May I please invite Mr. Sruthijit KK, the Executive Director for the Economic Times, to join us. He is the chair for the session. Sruthijit KK is the Executive Director of the Economic Times. He has been a journalist and the editor for 2 decades, working in New Delhi and Mumbai. He has previously served as the editor-in-chief of Mint, the editor of ET Magazine, and the editor-in-chief of HuffPost India, and the editor of Quartz India. He has helped launch and lead digital and print publications for domestic and global media houses. Welcome, sir. Now, I would like to invite the panelists, Mr. V.K. Matthews, the founder and executive chairman for the IBS Group. IBS Group, which provides IT solutions to the global travel, transportation, and logistics industries. Ms. Pamela Anna Matthew, the Managing Director for OEN India Limited. Ma'am, please join us. She is the twin postgraduate in Economics and Business Administration with 50 years of professional managerial experience. Mr. Nawaz Miran, the chairman for Group Miran. Mr. Adib Ahmed, Managing Director for Lulu Financial Holdings. Mr. Siddharth Narayanan, Senior VP and Chief Strategy Officer for Invest Kerala. Mr. Siddharth Narayan, Senior VP and Chief Strategy Officer for Invest India. So let's begin the panel discussion. Kerala's journey towards a trillion-dollar economy. Over to the chair, Mr. Sruthijit KK, the Executive Director for the Economic Times. Mr. Sruthijit KK, over to you.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It's a delight to be speaking after Mr. Balagopal, who's an inspiration to all of us. I'm personally so delighted that Kerala has and KSIDC has his leadership as it embarks on this journey of attracting greater global investments. I'm a firm believer in the idea that we attract what we value and what we seek and what we work towards. This is true for individuals, it's true for nations, certainly true for subnational entities, like in this case, a state. I think if we want to attract investments, we have to have the right attitude towards capital, the right attitude towards entrepreneurs. And I think the Malayali attitude towards all of this has undergone a lot of change and change for the better, and that is great. But I think still a lot more can change as well, and I have no doubts that as time passes, it will. I happen to be in Davos this time when Mr. Rajiv, the minister, and his very entrepreneurial team was also there. I felt very happy because last year when I was there, all our neighboring states were there in full force, all the chief ministers, doing tons of meetings, being very, very competitive. I mean, as you all know, our neighboring states are absolute stars of industrial growth in the country. Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Andhra, Telangana, all of them have done exceedingly well. We have gotten somewhat left behind for various reasons, but I think there is time to catch up. But it was a delight to see that we were also present there, doing meetings, pitching to global investors. And a large summit like this certainly is a very heartening step. And as I said, the heroes of industrial growth and economic growth in that sense are entrepreneurs. And I'm delighted to be moderating a session with so many star entrepreneurs of Kerala, power-packed panel. What I want to do is to start by asking all our panelists, all our esteemed panelists today, to give your opening remarks about the subject of Kerala's growth towards a $1 trillion economy. And while you do that, mention one opportunity that is close to your heart. It doesn't have to be necessarily linked to your current area of work. And also mention one challenge that you would like to be part of solving, that you feel like you could contribute to solve. And we can start with you, Matthew, sir.
Good afternoon, good evening. First of all, thank you. This is a very extremely relevant panel and topic for all of us to create the first model 1 trillion economy in the country. I would like to frame the context a little bit. Whether it will be possible for us to grow from a $152 billion economy today to a $1 trillion economy by 2047 when India at 100. If you look at the data, how did we perform last 20 years? And then look at what is it that we will have to perform in the next 23 years. The beauty is that our country had grown 4.4 folds in the last 20 years, our country, from $0.72 trillion to $3.86 trillion. That adds to something like 8.6% CAGR. Kerala State, on the other hand, in 2004-2005, our economy was just about 1 lakh crore, 0.97 lakh crores. And this financial year, it is projected, that is 20 years from then, is projected to become 13.1 lakh crores. Gentlemen, in 20 years, 13-fold growth, which actually translates to 13.7% CAGR. That is what we did during the last 20 years. Of course, if the base is small, everything is easy. So absolutely it is possible for us to get there if we don't have to maintain that rate. We only need to maintain about 8.5%. This is nominal GDP growth, yeah? So I think it should be absolutely possible. I would also like to give a little bit more color to our economy in spite of everything else. What is the pattern of economy or the contribution of economy or the sectors of economy indicate a greater well-being, a greater sense of development as against a less great sense of development? If I take Switzerland, if I take UK, if I take US, if I take all of the developed nations, Canada, Australia, they have a kind of a pattern. Agriculture typically contributes 1% to the GDP. That is the primary sector. The secondary sector, which is manufacturing, construction, contribute 25%. 74% is the tertiary sector, which is services, because there's a limit beyond which we cannot physically consume. You can have only one car you can drive, we can have only one bedroom where you can sleep. So the physical aspects limit and the services aspect increase. And this is where Kerala scores. We are close to 70% services, 67% to be precise. And our primary sector is still very high, 11%, which includes mining as well. 11% is our primary sector. Agriculture is still very high. We don't need 11 people to actually do agriculture to get food for, say, 100 people. And our secondary sector which is manufacturing plus construction plus all linked together, is about 27%. And the rest is services. So I'm just saying, if you really look at the contours and see, are we just saying something that is doable or not? So with the data that we have in hand and the kind of the nature of the pattern of our economy, we can do it if we get certain things in order. So that's where I would actually say the first round. When it comes to services, I'll also see this. If I take the global economy as a whole, and we have not reached there, 17% of the global economy is digital today. The digital economy size is 17%, or roughly about $18 trillion in size. And our share of that is still very low, so we have really headroom to grow. So before I come to the next round of what are the constraints, that's where I will stop, and then I'll pass it on to others to share the thoughts.
Do you want to mention?
Yeah, go ahead.
Would you like to mention one opportunity that is close to your heart and one challenge you would like to contribute towards solving?
So the opportunity that is very close to my heart is how do we digitally enable our country? And the challenge, I see only two distinct roles of government. If you do that, everything else the Keralites will do. We are absolutely great to do that. And the role that the government should do, number one, the heading is Clean Kerala. If we can have this place, which is leading to making it the finest place to live, if we can waste manage, if we can keep our rivers and the streams swimmable and clean waters, backwaters swimmable, as George always would say, George Dominic, and then safe Kerala, that is safe to travel roads, safe to drink water, safe to eat food, safety from disasters. So clean Kerala, this is completely on infrastructure and digitally enabled Kerala. This is all what it is. So government should create the best of laws, best of regulations, and leave it to the private sector to actually play with that. If you do that, we will become a great place to live. And if it's a great place to live, it will be a great place to work in future. So that's what I would say.
So well articulated. Thank you. Yes, Pamela, ma'am.
Yeah, I come from the electronic industry. The chairman, while introducing, said Keltron was the first company in electronics which came into Kerala. But OEN came 2 years ahead of that. Actually, it was not me that promoted the company. It was my father who had the vision to start up an electronic industry in Kerala. And I must admit that when he started the company, he had the full support from the State Industrial Development Corporation, that is KSIDC, and the state of Kerala. So he was able to possibly bring in something which was not in Kerala at that time. And since then we have grown, and I must admit that the support which we have received from Kerala, especially the Development Corporation, because it is like, it was a out-of-box thinking, because when we were operating from Cochin, and our customers were not in Cochin, but fully spread mostly in northern area and western area. So we had to obviously be very close to the customer. So at that point of time, we wanted to set up a facility in the state of Maharashtra because we serve the automotive sector, so it's an automotive hub. So it was the Kerala State Industrial Development Corporation who funded us, supported us, to set up an industry base in Maharashtra. Because this is something which is differently done. Because you would expect that Kerala State Industrial Corporation would support an industry in Kerala. Yes, we are the mother plant who wanted to possibly expand our base so that we are closer to the customer, which was the requirement, and it continues to be a requirement. So basically, what I'm trying to say is, we have grown with Kerala facilities, but I'm pretty sure that this trillion target, the vision, if it has to come to a reality, there are few things, few challenges as an industrialist which comes to my mind is basically in the resources. Because we have talents here, engineering talents here, but most of them are not available in Kerala. Or most of them have gone away from Kerala. So it is a big challenge as an industrialist to get that kind of a talent pulled back in Kerala. And that is, according to me, a big opportunity for Kerala. You talked about opportunity, because we can't have big major industries in Kerala because of the limitation for space, because Kerala is a crowded place. And therefore, if we have the talent pool to do research in engineering in different segments, it would be a great advantage for Kerala. And from Kerala, we can possibly, contribute even to the global, reach out to the global sector, because we have connectivity. As far as connectivity is concerned, Kerala is well connected with the global network. So if we can attract the talents which has gone away from Kerala to outside India possibly, we would be able to do much better and possibly have a footprint globally. People coming to Kerala, setting up things, or assisting in research. For example, right now, we interact with companies outside India where they want us to develop some products for them. So that is the kind of support which we would possibly get from global, partners. And those partners can possibly bring that kind of opportunity for exports from outside Kerala, outside India. That is one aspect. The other is the lack of possibly planning, or I would not say lack of planning, I would say like lack of coordination. For example, we have highways, we have a good airport, Cochin Airport. We have, we are seeing Vizhinjam seaport to develop, to have that kind of a connectivity for the Kerala to reach out to the global scenario. But where we have bottlenecks in between. For example, I'm typically saying to get out of my corporate office from Vaitala to possibly come here, I have to at least, although it is possibly only 15 kilometers from there, to get here, I have to plan ahead. Otherwise, I get blocked in certain segments of the road, which is something which is lacking, because there should have been some kind of a coordination which government authorities or government entities could have done, would ease out that kind of. Recently, I had a visitor from United States, an Indian, who came and was doing, assisting an unit in InfoPark. So he came visiting. So what he did is, he took a water metro from Info Park to come to Vaitila, which was like, just less 15 minutes. But if I have to take the car and go around, it'll easily take me 1 hour. So my son-in-law was saying, why did we not think about, using water metro instead of using the car or vehicle, motors? So these are things which should break the barriers which we have about only going by metro. We can't just walk up to the hub and take the metro, water metro, and then walk up to the next available place. So this kind of opportunity which is available can only be utilized if there is better coordination in the infrastructural facilities which we have. The third is the sustainable development. We often talk about people not, people are not mindful about others or about littering, for example. Why is that people are littering? Because there is no place, there is no authority, entity who can coordinate waste management. Had we that facility which is available, the waste management would take care of itself. So these are opportunities which are available just within the doorsteps where we live. But we talk about very, very, big things. Trillion, I would say that it is not trillion. Maybe it is not 1 trillion, 2 trillion. If we use our resourceful, tactfully, with proper planning, we would be able to possibly hit maybe 2 trillion by 2047. So Kerala is not a shy economy. Kerala is a vibrant economy, but talent is available, but talent is not tapped properly. This is what I feel.
Good.
Lovely, ma'am. And, I have to say, it's so wonderful that everyone who speaks about economic growth in Kerala also emphasizes on cleanliness, garbage management. Paragopal sir spoke about $1 trillion sustainable economy, and I think that's so important because we see so many examples around the world of cities that have become unlivable due to runaway economic growth. So we want economic growth, but we also want our cities and our communities to be clean, sustainable. Nawaz sir.
Yeah. So for me, we have a classic case in front of us, which is the Cochin International Airport. You know how much percentage we give as dividend? It's 40%. So there are a lot of money coming into the country from Middle East, of course, and from other part of the world. And close to 45,000 crores comes to the state by way of tourism revenue. So we have lot of things that need to be fulfilled, be it roads, be it good toilets on the wayside while you travel from one place to another. So anything and everything can be charged. And people who work outside, who make, say, 2,000 or 3,000 dirham as a monthly income in Middle East, if they want to invest, say, 5,000 rupees, there is no opportunity. What we have seen here is the entire money coming into the state is mostly being driven into consumption, and the rest of the amount goes for real estate purpose.
Jewelry?
Of course, yeah. But then mostly it has been, it's not been guided. So if you have good projects which can be showcased and good projects that actually become part of the social entrepreneurship. I represent football. I am the president of Kerala Football Association. We don't have stadiums. So collectively, if there is a chance for people to put money, they all will happily put, say, 5,000, 10,000, 25,000 and a lakh of rupee to create better stadiums. So what is life beyond a normal job for a Keralite Keralite? If you ask me, you don't have anything other than a film opportunity. There is no sports facilities. There is no sports engagement. Or you take art and culture. There's nothing of that sort that is prevalent in the state. And all these places, there are opportunities for making money. The money that's been, I'm not being criticizing the initiatives, but we are taking loans from outside. We are paying interest to the tune of 9 to 10%. What if Keralites are allowed to give that money? Instead of they putting that money into a normal bank and getting 5 to 6%, he will get 9 to 10%. A long-term plan can be created. And I'm telling you, on anything and everything, we can't have the old socialist approach. People who takes advantage of the services has to pay. And that mindset is slowly changing. That's the reason why government has come up with the plan that, for the roads that's been constructed, payment will be taken, the user fee will be taken. So that sort of a mindset can change the way in which Kerala actually looks at. The second point which I want to emphasize here is, if you look at people in Middle East, their exposure has gone beyond multifold, in the sense that they have access to every technology in the world. Whereas if I sit in Cochin and I want to attend a fair in Germany, for me, if I get a visa, it's great. But for a person in Dubai to attend a fair in Germany, it's a normal course of action, and he doesn't have to get to two or three flights. He just have to he can get to the place in one go. So that sort of advantage our people had, and with that, they are all well equipped. They can come back, they can contribute to the state by getting into areas where high level of employability is possible. Say, for example, if you talk about the knowledge economy, in the current discussion, what is happening is global capability centers. If a normal IT guy is getting 25 to 35,000 rupees, a global capability center gives 1 lakh and more as salary. So these are all opportunities in front of us, and I'm pretty sure that the micro organization, the micro institutions, small and micro institutions, their contribution can be really high because, the world is moving towards a very specialized, personalized, services and offerings. Say, for example, I have kumbalappam in America. The kumbalappam which is made in the Edanayala, you know what Edanayala is, right? So you don't get it in Kerala. You get it in US because the smaller companies in Kerala is manufacturing, and the frozen item is getting there in US. So the era is of specialization. The era is of personalized intervention. So many micro organizations definitely will be able to get to that level. So what we need to do? What we need to do is the mini micro entrepreneurs need to be trained on how to handle finance, how to handle human resource, how to handle supply chain. All these things, if we can train those smaller guys. Balasan had written a book on micro enterprises, contribution of micro enterprises in Kerala, right? So this is going to be the future. And we need to get them prepared so that, the benefit of that has to come to our state. So for me, there are a lot of low-hanging fruits in the state. We need to make sure that a proper plan has to be in place. Money is not an issue, because now these days what is happening is with private equities, lot of money is there. They're actually looking for opportunity. The only thing that they need is they want a return, and that too a reasonable return, which is in the level of 12 to 15%.
My only worry, Nawaz, is that we've been covering all the recent private equity deals centered in Kerala, and they're all in healthcare and in hospitals, right? And I don't know if that's a good thing, because private equity obviously expects very high returns, and if if these hospitals are eventually going to
What you said is absolutely right. The average revenue per bed for the top 5 hospitals are in the range of 50 to 55,000 rupees. We always had the advantage of good government hospitals taking care of all these services. But what is happening these days is that people are becoming more obsessed with multi-specialty hospitals, but at the same time they're not covering the insurance. So in 2 to 3 days' time, these hospitals will milk them out, and they don't have any sort of insurance.
So I definitely would like to give a different color to this, because I was also involved in the discussions of some of those investments into the state of Kerala. So what's really happening, I think it should be seen in the right light. What's happening is, as the GDP is growing for this country at the rate at which it has been growing, one area where people will spend money and focus will be healthcare. People are actually going and trying to get as best healthcare as possible. So therefore, the reason why these investments, there is a lot of investment going into healthcare, is because the potential for growth is very high. When the GDP grows 5%, healthcare grows 30%. Sorry, 10% goes to 30%. So therefore, private equity investors see this as an area of significant growth, and therefore valuation increase. And I don't think that is a bad thing, because we need healthy citizens as much as we need educated and talented citizens. So I think some of these things, again, we should not see it in a negative light. It's quite important.
I'm sorry, I didn't see it in the negative light. What I'm saying is that it should be adequately...
Sorry, not Nawaz, I was actually saying...
No, it should be adequately covered by insurance. That, we need to spread that message of being properly covered by insurance has to be there in every household.
Sure.
I unfortunately very much see it in a, I don't want to say negative, but somewhat negative light itself. If it was a question of seeing opportunity, private equity investment would come in a more widespread manner. It concerns me a little bit that there is overwhelming concentration in the hospital opportunity, but we can agree to disagree on that. Adib, why don't we come to you?
Yeah, I can. Kerala towards 1 trillion economy. It's a great vision, it's a great ideology, it's a great thought process. But what I don't agree to the fact is that we hit it by 2047. That says that it takes another 22 years to hit. It has to be much more earlier, I think so. We are sitting at a junction where Kerala can do everything for itself. And definitely, I don't want to see Kerala as a 1 trillion economy when I'm at an age of 60 or 70, I'm very selfish to myself. I like to see it when I'm young and I'm able to enjoy the fruits that the states can bring towards us. The main point that I like to stress to the factor is that, Kerala has something that most of other states of India doesn't have, which is its people. The large diaspora of NRKs. I don't know how much of you would know, but 2023, the annual remittance into India stood at a number of 125 billion US dollars. And Kerala received 2.16 lakh crore, which is close to around 27 billion US dollars, That's the amount of money that comes into Kerala banks every year, sent by the diaspora. We account to close to 22 or 23 of states' gross domestic income. Tourism, on the other side, only contributes to 10% of the income in our state. As you rightly said, if you ask me, one of the areas that I'd like the state to focus upon is tourism. It's the most lowest hanging fruit, and it's the least looked out of industry as such. As we move forward towards a very digital and AI and a robotic economy, a lot of work would get constituted by AI technology. That means that we would need less and less people to do a lot of monetary, rudimentary back office work, which most of our IT industry has been doing for the last couple of decades. In terms of innovation, today AI writes its own code. So writing of codes are no longer, we don't require people to write codes. AI can write its own code and can be able to program programs that are needed for us to use for many industries of the future. That means that we have a serious problem when it comes to job giving. And the easiest way for the job giving that we could see is to focus on service industry. And I think so here is where Kerala has a huge amount of potential. Its backwaters, its mountains, its scenic nature, wellness industry. I think so we have not even looked inside. The last data published in the year 2023, the world's wellness industry is capitalized as $256 billion US. And I think so we are not even touching the tip of an iceberg when it comes to wellness industry worldwide. Kerala has a lot of opportunities that can do it. How do we get it? So it's very easy for us to sit here and say that there are a lot of opportunities. How should Kerala achieve these opportunities? The answer lies within us. We've already heard that since morning. So from morning, when the industries minister, and I think Gopalakrishnan sir also said, we were first in many. Then my question is, what happened after that? We were first to create Technopark. We were first to create the first television of the country. What just happened afterward? Did we become the rabbit and took a break and then the tortoise just passed by us? I think so. We were not able to keep momentum because of a lot of restrictions that the state received, either politically or the will never existed after that. I think so that is what needs to change over the next decade. We need to start focusing on a couple of key industries and get the state mechanism and the private sector to start focusing on towards that particular few industries that could really churn in income into the country. And I think so the PPP model is one of the best that could be thought about. Definitely the airport, the Cochin International Airport is a prime example of what a PPP can actually do for the state. Can we not replicate that in other industries? What are the biggest challenge for a tourism guy to come and invest? We have many institutions and sovereign wealth fund who comes and says, where do we invest in the state? And most of the time, our political figures are not able to give answers on where they can invest inside. We want a tourism infrastructure development center that can actually acquire land, map it out, and then give it to potential investors who can develop the number of tourism hotels and resorts and so on and so forth that can really expand the amount of people coming here and also to start giving jobs in that particular sector as such. So I think so we have a lot of areas that we can really focus upon. We have done that in the past. If collectively we are able to put our efforts together, get the political will behind to say that, let's really sit down and say these are the next 4 sectors that we will concentrate over the next decade. Put in the private sector inside. We don't want the state government or the political efforts to start running businesses in our thing. They need to be regulators. And unless they don't stick to the role of becoming a regulator and stop doing businesses, we have a problem at hand. You will have, the prime example is the KSRTC. We've been losing money for a long period of time. The central government understood that on the air travel, where they understood that Air India is under no way possible for them to run it inside. What did they do? They privatized it. Here the problem is that, the moment you start about privatization of government institutions, you will have the unions that are coming inside. But what the unions also need to understand, the future in the Gulf is also not very secure. You have more and more youth of the Gulf countries who are taking up jobs and who are now becoming the active workforces down there. That means lower and lower need of our workforce to actually go outside. Migration cannot be the absolute solution of the future, where the state would think that every year on year we would get that kind of remittance flowing inside and we'll be quite safe towards that aspect. This number is definitely going to come down, and before it comes down, we should really think about how do we capitalize on the amount that is coming today. And as Namaskar rightly said, why do we have to take loan from outside institutions when the capital is available between our people? If you are able to give them 10% of 9 or 8 or 9, 8, 9, 10% of interest, why don't you create a format? Because you're sovereignly governed and your guarantee is pretty much the guarantee of the country of India. That means that, if you reach bonds out, African countries do that. Nigeria, many countries have come out and said that, we are bringing out the non-resident bond of the country, where the non-residents would be able to put in their money and the government would start giving them interest over that money. So the problem of getting money is also solved. To get somewhere, you need to start manifesting the fact that we can actually have it done. You really have to think to the factor that, yes, it's an achievable aspect. The will and the power and the vision needs to be given. I think the Honorable Prime Minister has done a wonderful job in doing that. In the last 10 years of his leadership, he has manifested a lot of things. Did it happen? Did it not happen? To a certain extent, it happened. But the real element to the factor is that the manifestation of the fact that it could happen made a huge difference. And I think so that's why we have seen the image of India in the international map change humongously in the last 10 years. So I think so, where do I start? Every field is very important for me. I see opportunity in every aspect, and I strongly feel if really put into effort, 1 trillion is the next 5 years job. It's not a next 22 years job.
Adib, you're doing very well in business. I think your speaking style is so rousing. If you wish to, you could do very well in politics as well. Siddharth, over to you.
Thank you. The challenge of going last in such a power-packed panel is by the time the mic comes to you, most of the points are already made, but I will still try. I think what we've heard from the morning, and when we look at the trillion-dollar economy, if we try to break it down in terms of what type of growth rate are we looking at, and in the next 22 years that we have to 2047, if we are to look at a trillion-dollar economy, we need to grow at roughly around 8.6 to 8.8 kind of percentage. What did we do the last few years? We did it around 6.6, 6.5%. There was COVID in between. If you take COVID years out of it, maybe around 7. So the question is, how do we get that additional, say, 2% of GDP growth? And for that, it's very important to look at which are those sectors which can outperform GDP growth. Which are those things, which are those areas that can give us that double-digit growth that we need? Because it will get averaged out, because we have a number of sectors, we have a lot of areas where we are working, and all of them won't grow at the rate of how even our national GDP grow. There will be slow sectors. So you really need to pick out which are the ones that will make up for that reduction by looking at those high growth sectors. Now, if you look back at that, the 40-year kind of comparison that was done, I think we have more challenges because we have more competition. The other states of India have also come up in many of the indices where Kerala was absolutely the best at one point of time. Now we are looking at more competition. We can call it competitive federalism, cooperative federalism, but everybody is out there looking at the same pot of investment, the same things. So we need to find out how do we differentiate, how do we use our strengths, how do we use the people strength that we have, all of these. I'll come to those in a minute. So when we look at it from the perspective of the high growth industry segments that we need to focus on, and then look at how this additional growth that we need in our economy has to come by, it comes to mind that, of course, we are going to be largely services-oriented economy. In services, how do we go into the more value-adding, higher-end part of the services? We spoke about wages today. If you really look at it, Kerala has high blue-collar wages. But if you look at the really high-skilled kind of service jobs that you need, Kerala pays less than perhaps rest of the country. So that's one reason why we don't find sometimes the skills. So as we look at these areas, it's going to be important that we look at how do we differentiate, and for me, productivity is going to be our killer app. As a state that does not have the kind of natural resources or raw materials that many other states have, and if people are our biggest strength, we need to really focus on productivity. We discussed in the previous panel about AI, how someone using AI is going to take your job, not AI taking your job. So I think Kerala should be the one that is using AI and using it for our productivity, using it for our growth, and do the areas that we are working in better than anyone else, because the competition out there is really, really big and real. Now coming to the opportunity part of it, where can that come? Today morning, there was Minister Piyush Goyal ji mentioned about the free trade agreements that we have signed with the EFTA countries, the Switzerland, Iceland, Liechtenstein, and Norway, and the upcoming European free trade agreement that will be there. And then the mother of all free trade agreements, as he said, that we might negotiate with the US. I think fundamentally trade is changing, and the opportunities out there in the world, new ones are going to come because of these. And I think as a state, we need to get very good at this. How do we project, how do we promote the kind of opportunities that are there in Kerala to foreign investors, so that we can, for the very first time in these free trade agreements, we have included an investment component to that. The EFTA agreement that India signed with the EFTA countries, that has 100 billion of investment promised into India over the next 15 years. Just 2 days back, we had the Qatar Crown Prince in India, Emir of Qatar here, and he promised 10 billion of investment into India. So the investment commitments from other countries are being made now, and trade is one of the main reasons why these commitments are coming, because they're all looking at the India market as well. So we need to get really competitive, really good at that aspect of leveraging these trade agreements. I think that's a great opportunity which, by bringing in the right skills for trade, bringing in the right skills for attracting these investments, we can do well. The challenge I see is, again, back to talent. So I was looking at the Kerala Migration Survey of 2023. We had 250,000 students go abroad in 2023 to pursue studies outside India. If you just do a simple math of 250,000 students, total India sends out around 7.5 lakh students outward. And Kerala sent 33% of it then, which means we do have a problem that a large number of students are going out from Kerala, if you are to believe the migration studies. Now, how much is this in terms of fees? It's easily billions of dollars that are going out in terms of fees being paid for students studying out of the country. So how do we bring that talent? How do we keep that talent in country and also in state? And that's where perhaps the opportunity of more higher education, specialized education kind of areas can come in Kerala. So overall, if you look at it, I think I also truly believe that 1 trillion economy is maybe not a BHAG kind of target. It's quite achievable. What we need to do is plan the right sectors, the right areas which will give us higher than average growth. Look at how do we make ourselves a lot more competitive as a state, because there's so much competition. How do we leverage trade agreements and the new way that the world order is going to work in the coming decade or so? And how do we retain the talent that's really our core strength?
Lovely, thank you. I love the fact that we are hearing from multiple panelists this evening that the $1 trillion economy target is actually somewhat underwhelming and we need to do more. And I agree. I mean, the point is that if, as Piyush Goyalji said this morning, if India, and as many, many leaders have said, if India's target is going to be to become a 30 to 35 trillion dollar economy by 2047, I think it would be underwhelming if Kerala was only a $1 trillion economy. And so that at Invest India, you work with a lot of states. You see all of their approaches to attracting investment, them setting these kind of targets. In that context also, in a comparative analysis, what could you say Kerala should do differently or Kerala could do more of?
Sorry, before I allow him to take this
Yes,
one,
please.
if you can please excuse me, I have a meeting at 5:15 with the minister, so with the permission of the panel, if I can be excused, I can take it. Please, ma'am.
Thank you. I was hoping to listen to one more round of your fire-breathing speech, but if you have to go, then thanks, Adeep.
Yes. So if you are to compare Kerala and what we could do differently and what other states are doing, I think what strikes me the most when in case of FDI facilitation that we do is most of our facilitation cases end up about being land. The number one most difficult thing to acquire in India is land. And that is something that Kerala has very less of. So the big difference that I see is that the kind of resources Kerala has is very different from many of the other states. Maybe some of the very smaller states are comparable. So the way different states are approaching it is very different. Land subsidies, being able to give large parcels of land are very important for some sectors like say green hydrogen, etc. Large patches of land that are needed for these. So the difference of picking those industries which maybe can grow vertically, service industries, maybe financial services apart from IT services, etc. These could be areas which are different for Kerala. Looking at areas where we do not need that much of extensive connectivity, right? If you're looking at things that need to go a lot through inland modes, we find it more difficult because our infrastructure is still coming up. Other states really advertise themselves in terms of the width of the roads, the large land parcels that they have, etc. So I think our focus has to be on the knowledge economy part, on the part that maybe we are more suited to the trade routes through our shipping, transshipment, all those kind of areas. And we pick on those industries that do not have a large land requirement. So those could be ways that I would say, compared to most of the other states in India, we would really stand out different.
Got it. Thank you. We kind of just have a few minutes, and before we close, and we have 3 entrepreneurs who have operated in India for decades and have built and nurtured wonderful businesses. And I want to come to the 3 of you very, very quickly and request you to tell me 2 things. One is, there are a lot of myths about doing business in Kerala. Could you bust one myth, take one myth, a popular myth, and bust it? And number 2 is, talk about one attitudinal or mindset change that is actually required in Kerala. But we'll have to, very quickly we'll have to.
So, one myth about Kerala, it's not truly a myth. In Kerala, it is safer to do business in a government's, designated area. So if you are doing the business in a government designated area predominantly, like for us in the IT side, Info Park, Techno Park, or if general business, general industry, maybe Kinfra Park, 90% of all your problems are solved because you are not then coming in contact or with the local, administration, and the lack of communication or all kinds of issues. See, many occasions what happens is the decision to continue or close happens during that 2 to 3 years or 1 to 2 years of your start of the business. And if you are going to be in a government designated area, then you don't have those problems at all. So that's taken care of. So That's because perhaps our people are overly conscious of their rights, and therefore everything is an issue. If somebody's, setting up a factory, whether it's going to pollute, what's his intention, motivations, exploiting, all of those. So that's one thing. And the second one, an attitudinal change. We have, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very public sector mindset. We believe that anything in public sector is good. And most of our public sector, they are loss-making, hugely loss-making, and they'll be successful only if either they are monopoly or held monopoly, or they are the sole suppliers to the government. Take the case of KSIDC, KSCB, you name it, all of them. Ideally, that mindset should change, because whether it is public or private sector, it's our own people working. And in private sector, they are more accountable and they are held to account. So we have better chances of success. So if government can, that's what I was initially saying, if government can restrict their act towards, government should not get into anything where there is a citizen service. They should not get into anything. They create the perfect laws. They make sure that the laws are followed and allow the private sector. And the role that they play is in infrastructure. All of us said, infrastructure, transportation infrastructure, waste management infrastructure, drinking water, all of those infrastructure, and maybe skills, invest in to facilitate skills development. And the reason why, they were all, Pam also talked about talent and the talent issue. It is, why are we losing talent? We are losing talent because for an aspirational society like Kerala, they don't find jobs which are matching their aspirations and also their qualifications. So our priority should be well-paying jobs and very successful private enterprise. And for that, government should pay attention to the fundamentals, make the infrastructure absolutely ready. Investments will come, for sure.
Thank you.
Okay. What is a myth in Kerala and Keralites, I would say? All of us have opinions. Everybody wants to be a leader. They're not able to accept another leader. Okay, so that process of accepting a leadership is, or everybody has an opinion, and to accept an opinion which is acceptable or practical is a time-consuming process. I've experienced that in running the company. Everybody has it. Okay. So then what happens is, there must be somebody to rule out that, okay, this is what it is. These are the pros and cons for X, Y, Z to go ahead. So that is a problem with basically Malayalis and Keralites, I think. The other is, what is that, which is needed is to have an attitudinal change. Okay? For example, making profit, because very often when we deal with negotiations and all that, you said, okay, nobody is, for example, when I'm in business, we are in business, we want to make profits. We have a policy that those who support us in services also have to make profits. Right? But when it comes to our customers, they want everything cheap. So I think that is an Indian culture.
It's a win-lose.
Yeah. So that is something which has to change. Business can stay only if we make profit. Profit to reinvest, to profit to reskill, profit to get into new technologies. So unless business, if it doesn't make profits, it should shut down. That is my basic, opinion and theory.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Nawaz, very quickly,
Yeah,
one myth and
in-
one attitudinal
No, in
change.
1982, when my dad decided to get into industry, uh, one friend of my dad came and told him that, why do you want to get into a mess? Life is now, you have made some money by doing the trading and things like that. Once you become an industrialist, then you get into the fold of, you know, industry, trade union, all that stuff. That was the scenarios during 80s, 90s, and the early part of 2000. But now we have a very robust startup culture. Everyone wants to get to something. They want to start something. They want to employ people. The perception of being an entrepreneur is completely changed. So that's the current spirit which Kerala has. So that old myth of nothing works. Why do I get into trouble? Why should I take that trouble? That sort of a thinking is, I could see that the youngsters, the Gen Z, is completely on a vibrant mode. They want to achieve something. They want to create big things, and that is what is driving Kerala as of now.
Thank you. We heard some really interesting themes, recurrent themes from many of our panelists. We heard about the need for sustainable development. We heard that $1 trillion target is perhaps inadequate. We need to be more ambitious. We heard that the tourism opportunity can be much bigger than what it is today. We heard the need to move beyond remittance and generate more industrial revenues out of Kerala. We heard that the role that the government should play is as an entity that ensures a level playing field, ensures regulations, creation and the implementation of those, and not necessarily in operating businesses. And we heard about a bunch of myths about Kerala and a bunch of attitude shifts that are needed. Thank you all for your time and your thoughts. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for our panelists.
Thank you all. May I please invite Shri Aju Jacob, MD, Synthite Industries Private Limited, and the Director for Kerala State Industrial Development Corporation, KSIDC, to the stage to do the honors, to give away the token of appreciation and love. Mr. V.K. Matthews, the founder and executive chairman for the IBS Group. Mrs. Pamela Anna Matthew, the Chairman and Managing Director for OEN India Limited. Mr. Nawaz Miran, Chairman for the Group Miran. Mr. Siddharth Narayanan, Senior VP and Chief Strategy Officer for Invest India. And the moderator, the chair of the session, Shri Shrutijit KK, Executive Editor, The Economic Times. Can we have a group photo? Sir, please, you may join. Group photo.